Do you have tight hips? Do you want to know my favorite exercise to help you stretch that area? We're specifically talking about the hip flexors. My name is Liz. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I'm also a mountain biking skills coach. I combine those two to help you feel better on your bike, to ride more confidently and be stronger. So my favorite hip flexor stretch is actually going to be done in this half kneeling position. Some people know it as the runner's lunge, but you're not going to be lunging forward quite as much. What you do is you engage your core and you shift forward at your hips just a little bit. You'll hold this for 15 seconds, maybe times 4. You want to equal 60 seconds total. So if you hold it for 20 seconds, you can do it 3 times. That minute-long stretch is what has been shown in the research to give you the most bang for your buck. Now to get into the details of this stretch. So for you to be able to do this stretch good, you are going to be tucking your tail, engaging that lower core, because whenever we look at a stretch, we want one part to be still, and then we want to move the other part of where that muscle connects, or muscle tendon connects. And so as we look at your hip flexor, we have one part of your hip flexor is called your rectus femoris. That's going to go from your pelvis down to your knee. That's one. The main hip flexors that we talk about that typically are tight are called your iliopsoas muscles, or your iliacus and your psoas. Those connect to the top part of your thigh bone, your femur, and one of them connects to the inside of your pelvis, your iliacus, and the other one connects all the way up to the front part of your spine. That's your psoas muscle. That's one that everybody kind of pushes in their stomach. They hold that pressure. They've had different releases for it. That guy is one of the main ones that gets super tight. And so as we stretch this, we want to stabilize our spine and our pelvis where our iliopsoas connects, and then we want to stretch and move our femur away. But if we don't do that, we don't hold stability here, then we end up going into kind of this position or this position, and you're like, oh, you have to go all the way down to feel it. Well, if you notice, it's just going to the end range of where my low back is, and that's what's holding that stability, and look at how much farther back. Versus, if I just control here, now I'm supporting my spine versus stretching my low back and putting stress on it. Now I can shift forward and I feel that lovely stretch here, and it feels really good for my body. If you want, you can open up and extend your arm, and that can give you a little bit more stretch. But that you have to control, you have to hold this core activation so much more when you open up and stretch. But that does give you even more of a total body stretch as you're doing it. The other way that I like to do this is that I like to put down, if you have trouble with your core activation, is I like to extend out, and I'll put my chest on my upper thigh. And then I just relax here and let it sag into it. The reason why you can relax here is because this other knee up to your chest is now controlling your spine. It's now controlling your pelvis. And so you're actually getting that tuck here mechanically versus muscle-wise. And then you just hang out here, again, 15, 20 seconds, 3 or 4 times. Take some breaths, and it should feel pretty lovely. So this is shown from the other side. Either do the tuck and the shift and hold that. Man, it feels really good. I'm a little sore, so it feels really nice. Or extend out, place your chest over top of your thigh, and then just relax that hip downward, and you should feel that same stretch. You may have to elongate a little bit more if you need. Move your back knee back, or your front foot forward, either to help that. If you are having core issues, it's just a little added tidbit to help you understand that movement of your pelvis and movement of your core. If you don't need it, perfect. Use this stretch to help you get a little bit more movement in those hips. But a lot of times, people that have tight hip flexors, we need core activation. We need support. Or we need core activation plus hip flexor strengthening. And those two combined together are what we need to be doing for ourselves to make sure we don't end up where we have chronically tight hip flexors all of the time. You're going to be on your hands and knees. And what you're going to be doing here is just understanding what this movement at your pelvis is. You're going to be tucking your tail and then sagging down. And so what we're doing is basically a lower core crunch. This is super similar to cat and cow, except for cat and cow, we end up moving more at our upper back and we kind of forget the pelvis. We kind of forget this lower part here. And so we want to make sure that we don't move at our upper back and we just move at this lower part. To be able to do this better if you're having any issues is take a deep breath in when it's low and then breathe it out as you're tucking. Breathe in and breathe out. And you should feel that engagement. Do a couple of these, like 10, 15, and then go back to your hip flexor stretch and see if you can do that same movement. Hold it now and then shift forward. And you should feel a better hip flexor stretch there. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you haven't, hit that subscribe button and check out a couple of these other videos.